Welcome to Kidmissing TV. I'm your host, Angelina Wilson. Today we're going to talk about the case of Amy Billig. Amy's case came to national attention on the TV series Unsolved Mysteries, which is where I saw it. But I decided to profile it because I just found it interesting and sad, really. Amy was 17 years old when she vanished from Coconut Grove, Florida on March 5th, 1974. It was initially believed that Amy might have been abducted by bikers. Maybe she accepted a ride from them because she did hitchhike. The last time Amy was spoken to, she called her father at his gallery and said, "Dad, I need a couple bucks. Can I come over?" "Sure, I'll give you a couple bucks." So she was headed over there from her home, and she sometimes hitchhiked. So that was the first theory. Now, the biker gang theory took us through a strange series of events on Unsolved Mysteries, because one of the bikers tried to help Amy's mother, Sue Billig, figure out what had happened to Amy, because they both thought the gang had taken her and drugged her. So in the process of trying to help her, he got the absolute tar beaten out of him, and at that point he didn't want to talk to her anymore because he was scared, which was understandable. One of the most allergy eyes bizarre things I think that happened was that a private investigator who was in a post office in England, he was in England on a different matter altogether, and a biker looking dude walked up to him and wanted to sell him a mute Coconut Grove. Well, everything Amy's mom had heard was that she'd been pretty well mute since she'd been with the gang. So that fit. Coconut Grove fit. So, and of course the PI said, no. And soon after that, he learned about Amy and contacted Sue. Unfortunately, nothing came of it. Amy's mother was beyond heroic in this case. She searched. She disguised herself and went in biker bars. She really got herself into some situations. But she's a mom, and that's what moms do. Amy's father died of a heart attack a few years after her disappearance. He died of a broken heart. Her brother Josh is still searching for her. Mom died at age 80, also of a heart attack in 2005. A man would call and torment Amy's mother for years, saying different things about Amy. For over 20 years, as a matter of fact. One thing that was found, that was not mentioned, by the way, on Unsolved Mysteries, was that Amy's camera that she had with her was actually located. Most of the pictures were overexposed, probably due to the Florida sun, but 2 of the pictures survived. One of a vine crawling all up a building. Interestingly, this vine's not native to Florida. So, where she saw that, I have no idea. And there was a white brick house in the background of this photograph. There was another photograph which showed a van, which is similar to a van that was owned by the man that actually was tormenting her mother. He made the mistake, the last time he called her, of using a cellular telephone, because by then people were starting to have cellular phones, and they were able to trace the call. He went to jail. Um, Another interesting theory is some people have speculated that Amy could be the Lady of the Dunes. Here in Massachusetts, the Lady of the Dunes is a case from that same time frame of an unidentified young woman found in the dunes on Cape Cod. She still has not been identified. I sure hope they do a genetic genealogy and finally find out who she was. The man, by the way, who called her mother, who stupidly used a cell phone the last time, his name was Henry Johnson Blair. Again, Blair owned a van that looked very much like the one in Amy's picture. Things that make you go, I wonder if neighbors were ever talked to about what they saw that day when Amy left the house, about any suspicious vehicles, anything like that. I mean, store owners are on the street, anything like that. Because somebody had to see something, you know. But like I said, I thought the Lady of the Dunes thing was interesting because there are some similarities. The age is somewhat similar. The look is somewhat similar. She had long, dark, full, dark hair. Like you can see that Amy had long, wavy, dark hair. Thick, full hair. She would be hard to miss. And so they always put the Lady of the Dunes hair up in pictures. Amy was said to be what they call a flower child in the 70s. Lady of the Dunes, they also thought might have been a flower child. So there was a lot of similarities. I would think DNA would have ruled it out. Because they have Amy's family's DNA, I'm sure of that. Now, if you have any information in Amy's case, you can call the Miami Police Department at 305-579-6530. That's 305-579-6530. Next time, we'll talk about the case of the White House Boys. I did 2 episodes on my old Kidmissing radio show on it, and both have been deleted by Blog Talk. So, I'm going to talk about it here, because it's a case that really does need to not be forgotten. These boys were unbelievably abused at the Dozier School for Boys, or the Florida Industrial School for Boys, or whatever you'd like to call it, depending on the time period. And all I could think of in listening to the stories was, my God, these men are my father's age. You know? And thinking about this happened in that time period when he was growing up. To think that that could have happened to him or someone else in his age group that I loved. You know, it floored me. But these children, in the minds of the state of Florida, were throwaways, and they just didn't care. It wasn't until many years later that they realized this really did happen, and they also realized, because families started complaining, that there were bodies. Some kids were actually buried there. Now, they did have a fire. They did have the records of those deaths. the number of deaths that they had records for, and disease, of course. Um, but the number of remains that they pulled out didn't match the number of records they had. There are more. And I'm not even sure they're done pulling out remains. So hopefully you'll join me for that. And I want to thank Roger Dean Kaiser for writing the book and for coming on my show twice. On the other, and I do highly recommend that book, by the way. As I mentioned last week, love true crime books. Amy's mother, Susan Billig, also wrote a book, My Without a Trace. I cannot find it, but you'll see a picture of it in the poster. Thank you for joining me. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Goodbye. God bless. Remember, mask up, and get that shot when you can. God bless you.